When it comes to precision engineering, there's a fascinating story from post war Europe that challenges everything we assume about modern manufacturing. The Brno Model 1.22 rifle represents a level of craftsmanship that would be almost impossible to replicate today.
That's really interesting. What made these rifles so exceptional compared to other firearms of that era?
Well, these weren't just mass produced firearms. Each Brno Model 1 was essentially a piece of precision artwork. The craftsman would spend days hand fitting components, using techniques that had been perfected over generations. The barrel steel alone went through a selection process that would seem absurdly meticulous by today's standards.
You know what's fascinating? I've read that they would actually age their wood stocks for up to 5 years before even beginning the manufacturing process.
That's exactly right. And here's something even more surprising. They maintained detailed records showing that each rifle went through at least 15 separate quality control checks before it left the factory. The testing process alone would take several days per rifle.
Let me add something about their accuracy standards. These rifles were consistently achieving sub MOA groups at 50 yards, which was remarkable for a .22 in that era.
And what's really interesting about those accuracy standards is how they achieved them. The button rifling process they used was revolutionary for its time, creating grooves with tolerances of less than 1,000th of an inch. Modern manufacturers would struggle to match that level of precision even with today's technology.
Hmm, that makes me wonder about their production numbers. How did they maintain commercial viability with such intensive manufacturing processes?
Well, here's the fascinating part: they actually operated on a different business model entirely. Rather than maximizing output, they focused on producing maybe 50, 60 rifles per month, but each one was essentially perfect. The waiting list for these rifles could stretch up to 2 years.
That kind of patience in manufacturing seems almost impossible to imagine in today's world of rapid production.
You know what's particularly interesting? The Brno factory maintained their own shooting range where every single rifle was test fired at multiple distances. They wouldn't just verify function, they would actually tune each rifle based on its individual performance characteristics. So
Let me share something surprising about their export success despite being behind the Iron Curtain. These rifles were so highly regarded that Western countries actually created special import arrangements just to obtain them.
that's right, and the numbers tell an interesting story. By the mid 1960s, nearly 70% of their production was being exported to Western markets, which was practically unheard of for a communist bloc manufacturer. The quality simply couldn't be ignored, regardless of politics.
Speaking of quality, I've heard these rifles are still performing at competition levels today, even after decades of use.
That's absolutely true, and here's what makes that even more remarkable. Modern testing has shown that many BRNO Model 1 rifles from the 1950s still maintain accuracy levels within 1/2 inch at 50 yards. That's comparable to many high-end modern target rifles.
Well, that really speaks to the longevity of their design and manufacturing quality.
And you know what's fascinating about their longevity? The Brno factory actually guaranteed parts availability for 25 years after production, something that would be considered extraordinary even today. They viewed these rifles as generational investments.
That's quite different from our modern approach to manufacturing, isn't it?
It really is, and I think that's what makes the BRNO model one such an important example. It shows us that there's another way to think about manufacturing, one that prioritizes quality and longevity over immediate profit. These rifles weren't just tools, they were investments in excellence.
Looking back now, what do you think is the most important lesson we can learn from the Brno story?
I think it's that true quality has no expiration date. These rifles prove that when something is designed and built with absolute commitment to excellence, it can maintain its value and utility for generations. In our world of planned obsolescence, that's a pretty powerful message.